Do you ever feel like you're constantly balancing an invisible weight, trying to meet everyone else's expectations while your own dreams whisper in the background? If you're a woman over 40, you likely know this burden intimately. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the emotional calculus of managing family shoulds and carving out space for your authentic self. If that question landed somewhere familiar, I want you to stay with me for a while. Not because I'm here to fix anything, and not because I have answers you're missing, but because this weight you're carrying is real and it deserves to be named out loud. So much of what women over 40 carry never shows up on calendars or to-do lists. It doesn't get acknowledged at work or thanked at family dinners. It just quietly follows you through your days. You might be listening to this while folding laundry, driving to an appointment, or sitting alone after everyone else has gone to bed. And even in those quiet moments, your mind might still be occupied with other people. Did you forget to check in on someone? Did you say the right thing? Are you doing enough? Are you being selfish for wanting something more? This phase of life can feel strangely crowded and lonely at the same time. You've spent decades showing up, adapting, smoothing things over, being reliable. Somewhere along the way, expectations settled onto your shoulders without anyone ever asking if you were willing to carry them forever. They just became part of who you're supposed to be. What makes this especially heavy is that from the outside, it can look like you're managing just fine. You're capable, you're organized, you're the one people count on. But inside, there's often a quiet ache, a sense that your own wants have been postponed for so long they barely know how to speak up anymore. This isn't about resentment. It's about honesty. It's about the part of you that wonders when it became normal to feel responsible for everyone else's emotional comfort. The part of you that feels pulled between loyalty to your family and loyalty to yourself. The part that asks, sometimes in a whisper, sometimes in frustration, when it's finally your turn. In this video, we're going to talk gently and truthfully about the invisible workload that comes with family expectations. Not just the tasks, but the mental and emotional work that never clocks out. We'll talk about how those expectations shape your choices, your energy, and your sense of self. And we'll talk about what it looks like to start reclaiming space for your own dreams without burning everything down or walking away from the people you love. You don't need to be braver. You don't need to be tougher. You don't need to be more grateful. You just need language for what you've been living and maybe permission to take yourself seriously again. Let's start by naming the thing that's been weighing on you all along. There's a kind of work that doesn't show up on paper, but it lives in your body. It's the work of remembering, anticipating, adjusting, and holding things together. It's the work of being the person who knows how everyone else is doing, what they need, and when something might fall apart if you don't step in. This is the silent burden so many women over 40 carry. Not just managing households or schedules, but managing emotions, expectations, and invisible agreements that were never formally made. You become the keeper of family harmony without ever applying for the role. It can look like being the one who remembers birthdays and medical appointments, the one who knows which topics to avoid at dinner, the one who senses tension before anyone else names it, the one who makes adjustments quietly so things run smoothly. You might not even notice how often you're doing it because you've been doing it for so long it feels automatic. What makes this especially exhausting is that it doesn't end when the kids grow up or when life supposedly gets easier. If anything, it changes shape. Aging parents need more attention. Adult children still need emotional support, guidance, or reassurance. Partners lean on you in ways they might not even realize. And through all of this, You're expected to stay calm, capable, and available. There's a constant feeling of being on call. Even when no one is actively asking for anything, part of you is always scanning. Are they okay? Did I forget something? Should I reach out? Should I help? That mental hum doesn't switch off easily, and because this work is invisible, it's rarely acknowledged. No one sits you down and says thank you for holding the emotional temperature of the room. Thank you for being the one who absorbs stress so others don't have to. Thank you for being the default problem solver. Instead, it's often assumed that this is just who you are. Over time, this can quietly erode your sense of self, not in dramatic ways, but in small, persistent ones. You start to measure your worth by how useful you are. You feel uneasy resting. You feel guilty wanting time alone. You might even struggle to answer simple questions about what you want because your attention has been outward for so long. Many women describe feeling tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. It's not physical exhaustion alone. It's the fatigue of being emotionally responsible all the time, of being the one who carries the unspoken things so others can stay comfortable. What's painful is that this burden often comes from love. You care deeply. You want your family to feel supported and safe. But caring doesn't mean disappearing, and responsibility doesn't mean self-erasure, even though that's how it can start to feel. If you've ever thought, I don't know how to stop doing this, or I don't know who I'd be if I did less, you're not broken. You're responding to years of conditioning that taught you to prioritize everyone else's needs first. Naming this silent burden isn't about blame, it's about awareness. Because once you see it clearly, you can begin to ask different questions, not just about what others expect from you, but about what it's costing you to keep meeting those expectations without pause. And that's where change quietly begins. By the time you reach your 40s, the word should has usually settled deep into your bones. It doesn't always sound loud or harsh. Sometimes it's almost gentle, familiar, like background noise you've learned to live with. But it carries weight, and over time, that weight adds up. You should call more often. You should be more patient. You should be grateful for what you have. You should want what makes sense to everyone else. These shoulds come from many places: family traditions, cultural expectations, roles you stepped into years ago and never officially agreed to keep forever. Some are spoken directly. Others are implied through silence, raised eyebrows, or quiet disappointment when you don't fall in line. For many women over 40, these expectations can feel especially tight. If you're single, there's often a subtle pressure to explain yourself. If you're divorced, there can be judgment you didn't ask for. If you're married but restless, you might feel ungrateful for even naming that restlessness. If you don't want to be the kind of grandmother, daughter, or partner people imagined, the discomfort can be palpable. What makes this hard is how deeply personal dreams can feel threatened by these expectations. Maybe you want to change careers, but your family worries about stability. Maybe you crave more solitude, but others interpret that as withdrawal. Maybe you want to travel, create, or start something new, but you're met with concern disguised as care. You might find yourself editing your desires before you even speak them out loud, minimizing them, softening them, laughing them off so no one feels unsettled. Over time, this can create a quiet split inside you. The part of you that shows up as expected, and the part of you that wonders what life could feel like if you were allowed to want freely. Many women describe feeling selfish for even noticing this tension. You've been taught that wanting more means you're dissatisfied, or that honoring your own dreams somehow takes away from others. But that belief often keeps you stuck in a version of life that feels smaller than it needs to be. There's also grief here, grief for paths not taken, for versions of yourself that were postponed or put on hold because the timing never felt right, or because someone else's needs felt louder than your own. That grief doesn't mean you regret your life. It means you're aware of your depth. Living under the weight of shoulds can make it hard to trust your own instincts. You might second-guess yourself constantly, wondering if you're being unreasonable or dramatic for wanting change. You might feel torn between loyalty to your family and loyalty to yourself, as if those two things can't coexist. But your dreams aren't a betrayal, they're information. They're signals from a part of you that's still very much alive, still curious, still hoping. And acknowledging them doesn't mean you're about to walk away from everything. It just means you're starting to listen. The first step isn't acting on every desire. It's allowing yourself to admit what you want without immediately judging it. Letting those whispers exist without drowning them out with obligation. That alone can feel radical. At some point, many women realize that if they don't protect their time and energy, no one else will do it for them. Not because others are cruel, but because they're used to you being available, used to you saying yes, used to you making it work. Setting boundaries at this stage of life isn't about building walls. It's about drawing quiet lines that allow you to breathe again. And for women over 40, this can feel surprisingly uncomfortable, even when it's deeply needed. You might notice resistance rise the moment you consider saying no. Guilt shows up quickly. Worry follows. You imagine disappointing someone, being misunderstood, or being labeled as difficult. After years of being the reliable one, stepping back can feel like breaking an unspoken contract. But boundaries don't have to be dramatic declarations. Often, they're small, consistent choices. Choosing not to answer immediately, choosing to take a day for yourself without explaining it, choosing to say, "I can't do that right now," and letting that sentence be enough. One of the hardest parts is learning that you don't owe everyone full access to you. You can care deeply and still limit how much emotional labor you take on. You can love your family and still choose not to manage their feelings. That distinction takes practice, and it rarely feels natural at first. Clear communication helps, even when it feels awkward, saying what you can offer instead of apologizing for what you can't, redirecting expectations gently rather than absorbing them automatically. Over time, people often adjust, even if there's initial discomfort. It's also important to notice how your body responds when you start setting boundaries. There might be relief mixed with fear, a sense of lightness followed by doubt. That doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're unlearning patterns that once kept you safe. Involving family in this process doesn't mean asking for permission. It means being honest about your capacity, sharing that you're prioritizing your well-being, not because you're pulling away, but because you want to show up more fully and honestly. Boundaries are not punishments. They're acts of self-respect. And when you model them, you give others permission to do the same, even if they don't say it out loud. Over time, something shifts. You start to feel less resentful, less depleted, more present in the moments you choose to be in. You begin to recognize that protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's sustainable. And sustainability matters, especially now. When you honor your limits, you make space for parts of yourself that have been waiting quietly for attention. That's where your dreams begin to feel possible again, not as distant fantasies, but as something you might actually have room for. There's something quietly powerful about beginning to tell the truth to yourself again. Not the polished version, not the one that sounds reasonable or easy to explain, but the honest one that lives underneath all the roles you've played so well. Reclaiming your narrative doesn't mean reinventing your entire life overnight. It often starts much smaller than that. It starts with noticing when you're living on autopilot, when your days are shaped more by habit and expectation than by intention. When your own voice feels faint, not because it's gone, but because it hasn't been listened to in a long time. For many women over 40, personal dreams feel strangely vulnerable. You might dismiss them as unrealistic or indulgent. You might tell yourself it's too late or that you missed your window. But often, what's really happening is that those dreams don't match the version of you that others are comfortable with. Maybe you want to start something creative again, even though it won't bring immediate results. Maybe you want to change how you work, or work less, or work differently. Maybe you want to live alone, travel alone, or simply have more quiet than you've ever allowed yourself before. These desires don't need to be impressive to be valid. There are women all around you who are quietly choosing themselves in ways that don't always make headlines. A woman who goes back to school in her late 40s, not to prove anything, but because she's curious again. A woman who starts a small business from her kitchen table, knowing it might grow slowly. A woman who decides she doesn't want to be constantly available anymore and reshapes her relationships around that truth. What these women have in common isn't fearlessness, it's self-trust. They've learned to take their inner voice seriously, even when others don't fully understand it. And that trust didn't appear all at once. It was built through small acts of self-honoring. Self-compassion is essential here. You're not behind. You didn't fail to live boldly enough. You did what you needed to do at the time with the information and responsibilities you had. That deserves respect, not judgment. Reclaiming your narrative also means letting go of the idea that your fulfillment is selfish. When you feel more aligned, more alive, more grounded in who you are, it ripples outward. You become less resentful, more present, more honest. That benefits everyone around you, even if they don't articulate it. This stage of life invites a quieter kind of courage, the courage to say, this is what matters to me now, even if it's different than before. Even if it changes again later, you're allowed to evolve. Your story isn't finished. It's still unfolding, and you get to decide how the next chapters are written. When you begin to prioritize your own dreams, something unexpected often happens. Life doesn't shrink. It expands, not always in dramatic ways, but in subtle, sustaining ones. You start to feel more like yourself again, and less like a collection of obligations stitched together. Thriving beyond expectation doesn't mean rejecting your family or your past. It means relating to them from a place of choice instead of duty. When you act from alignment rather than pressure, your energy shifts. You show up with more clarity and less quiet resentment. There's a noticeable difference in how your body feels when you're living closer to your truth. The constant tension eases. The background anxiety softens. You might still feel tired, but it's a cleaner tiredness, not the heavy exhaustion of self-abandonment. Over time, you also become a different kind of example. Whether you intend to or not, others notice. They see a woman who honors her limits, who speaks more honestly, who doesn't apologize for existing fully. This can be especially powerful for younger women watching you, even if they never say it out loud. You don't need to have everything figured out to begin. Thriving often starts with reflection, asking yourself where your energy goes, noticing which expectations drain you the most, identifying one small place where you could shift, soften, or step back. This isn't about doing more. It's about doing what's true, and that truth can change over time. What matters is that you're listening. If you're carrying an invisible workload right now, I want you to know that it's okay to put it down, even briefly, to question which parts are truly yours to carry, to imagine a life where your dreams aren't treated as optional extras, but as essential parts of who you are. You're not alone in this. So many women are standing at the same crossroads, feeling the same mix of fear and relief. There is strength in recognizing that, and comfort in knowing this conversation doesn't end here. If something in this video resonated with you, you're invited to reflect, to share, to simply sit with what came up. This space exists so you don't have to hold it all by yourself anymore. Your life doesn't need to make sense to everyone. It just needs to feel honest to you, and that is more than enough. If you've made it this far, I want to pause with you for a moment. Not to wrap things up neatly, and not to tell you what to do next. Just to acknowledge what it means that you stayed. That something here felt familiar enough, honest enough to keep listening. The invisible workload we talked about today doesn't disappear just because it's named. Family expectations don't suddenly loosen their grip. The shoulds don't evaporate overnight. And your dreams don't instantly step forward with a clear plan attached to them. Real life doesn't work that way, especially not at this stage, but something does shift when you stop pretending this weight isn't there, when you allow yourself to say, even quietly, this is heavy, this is real, this has shaped me. There's relief in that honesty, a softening, a sense that you're no longer gaslighting yourself into thinking you should be fine when something inside you knows you're tired of carrying it all alone. You don't need to overhaul your life to honor yourself. You don't need to make big announcements or justify your choices. Sometimes the most meaningful changes happen internally first, in how you speak to yourself, in how quickly you step in to rescue, in how often you check in with what you actually have the capacity for. This phase of life asks for a different kind of strength. Not the strength of endurance or self-sacrifice, but the strength of discernment, knowing what's yours to hold and what isn't, knowing when love looks like showing up and when it looks like stepping back, knowing that your dreams don't need permission to exist. If you're feeling conflicted right now, that's okay. Growth often feels like tension before it feels like clarity. You can honor your family and still honor yourself. You can care deeply and still choose differently. Those things are not opposites, even if they've been framed that way for much of your life. I hope you leave this conversation feeling a little less alone. A little less dramatic for wanting space. A little more grounded in the truth that what you're experiencing is shared by so many women, even if it's rarely spoken out loud. There is no deadline for becoming more yourself. No expiration date on wanting something meaningful. No rule that says you have to keep carrying what's weighing you down simply because you always have. If this resonated, let it linger, let it settle. You don't have to act on anything today. Awareness is already a step. Listening to yourself is already a form of respect. And whenever you need a place to come back to this conversation, this space is here. Quiet, honest, unrushed. You're allowed to want more. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to choose yourself even now. And you're not walking through this alone. Before you go, I want to invite you to join this community of women rediscovering themselves after 40. If you found comfort, clarity, or even just a moment of peace in this video, please subscribe. It helps this channel grow, and it helps more women find the support they deserve. And if you have a second, leave a like and a comment. I would love to hear what resonated with you the most. Thank you for being here. Truly.